Sanity Functions brings the power of automations to your content, the same sort of automations you're already used to when you code. And we've always said content is data, so let's take full advantage of it in this particular example. I write a lot of course material like lessons and blog posts, and we can see here this code snippet in one is not very well formatted, and I'd like to keep my code formatted consistently in everything that I write. And fortunately, I can now do that on the server side with this Sanity function. Here I've published this document, and you can see immediately that it has been formatted with Prettier. Now I could have put some UI in the studio to format this with Prettier, but I want to make sure that these code snippets are always consistently formatted no matter where the mutation comes from, whether that's by a human or a robot. And the way to do that is with a Sanity function. So here inside of my Sanity blueprint, where I configure all of my functions, here I have one called format code. And so what this says is on every document publish, if the document satisfies these conditions, and we can see a grok filter here, is the document type article, and does the delta between the before and after state of that document contain any changes in any of the blocks of my block content, which are of the type code. Lastly, the only data I'm going to send from this changed document through to the function is its ID and that content field. In the function itself, here I have imported format from Prettier, and that's what I'm going to use and configure. And these are the consistent configuration options that I'm going to have execute on every document. So they'll all be formatted with the same Prettier config. And so here is my function handler. First, we set up a Sanity client to be able to make changes to the document. We check first if the document has received a valid content field, and we also check, does that content field contain any block types? Our filter should have ensured that, but it doesn't hurt to double check in the function itself, especially since the filter might change, but the function could stay the same. Now we'll go through each of those blocks and find the code blocks. And here we've got a helper function to go use this language field from the code input and then apply it to this code snippet. And then we format our code based on that Prettier config at the top of the function and return the formatted code. Now, there's one extra part that's really important when we're creating functions that are going to invoke changes on a document. We don't want to end up in a recursive situation, so we're protecting ourselves against cases where this function could be invoked, but formatting the code blocks doesn't actually make any changes to the document. And then finally, if we have changed a number of the code blocks here, we create this very surgical patch to say, just update the field within every one of those blocks and just update the code field itself. So we're not replacing the entire document. We're not overriding anything we don't need. We are simply changing those code snippets in the document. We commit this transaction and then that's it. We've formatted those code blocks. And from the terminal, we can inspect the logs of this function to see that it is working as intended. And here we can see our last invocation of that function. It formatted one code block and then the function ran again, but did not find any code blocks that needed formatting. And so it didn't perform any action. Now you can add this function to your projects as well. You can see this recipe and more at sanity.io/recipes. You can create a new function by running the following command from your terminal. But if you'd like to bootstrap your function with the code shown in this video, you can type example, Prettier format code. And that's it. Now that you can kick off any sort of process server-side on any mutation to any document, what will you make happen on your Sanity project, treating content as data and automating whatever you need?